Political commentator Chris Cillizza and host of YouTube's So What. Chris, always good to see you. Holy smokes. I mean, where to begin? Let's go back to Kelly Meyers' DOGE reporting first. The Office of Personnel Management now telling all these workers that responding to Musk's DOGE request to justify their work is voluntary. But then Trump said anybody who didn't respond would be fired or semi-fired. Are federal employees that you know complying? I mean, what are people telling you when you take their pulse?
First of all, no one wants uncertainty in this regard, right, Markie?
Yeah.
We're talking about people's lives. I know there's an image in a lot of the country that the average federal worker is lazy, doesn't really want to do anything. And I always say, the federal government is gigantic. Are there some lazy people who work for the federal government? I'm sure there are.
Just as there are in every industry and every office
organization.
That you work in.
Exactly right. And so I think that there's this stereotype of these people, but I know lots of them, as would anyone who lives in the Washington area for any period of time, because the federal government is a gigantic employer. Most of these people are dedicated civil servants who are experts in a particular area, AIDS and, working on AIDS in Africa, one of my wife's friends, for example. And, the uncertainty on top of being sort of told your life's work isn't all that important or we're going to stop doing it, I think is very difficult. And I always say this, look, as someone who has been laid off in my life, no one should, in my mind, take glee or joy from this in doing it. That's my criticism of Elon Musk. You shouldn't be gleeful about this. And I just think it's a hard enough situation without all this uncertainty. I'd add, I don't know what semi-fired means. You were playing that clip from Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? So at minimum, what we should be doing, I think, is provide some clarity here. And I think what you're seeing, Markie, is this is how much power does Elon Musk have and where are the limits of it? That's sort of what we're finding out right now. He does not sort of have a blank check to do whatever he wants. But in the middle, caught in the middle, are people's lives who have mortgages and bills to pay. I think it's important to keep that front and center.
Absolutely. Well, then you also think about all these, federal workers, maybe even your friend included, who's working on AIDS in Africa, who the most justifiable work that they do cannot be put in an email and listed off in 5 bullet points. And so then you're forced to put 5 lesser things that then is apparently reportedly being read by AI. I don't know if you've confirmed that on your end.
Interesting. No, I have not.
Okay, but apparently AI is going to be reading this. But you know what I mean? It's like then you have to send in 5 lesser items, and then somebody decides, whether you're on the chopping block or not, and if you're important.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to reduce down what you do. Again, I understand the idea, like sort of notionally, I understand kind of like, tell us what you do. At the same time, I think one thing that's hard is the federal government can't be run exactly like a business. It is so vast. It does so many different things and provides so many different services that when you try to present a one-size-fits-all approach, like Elon Musk is saying, from people who work for the CIA to people who work for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, write in an email 5 things that you did last week. I get the sentiment. I just don't think a one-size-fits-all approach works in an operation this vast with this many different imperatives. And, you can't just port over what has worked for business to what has worked for government. I've seen it time and time and time again. Business people who come in and say, "Oh, we're going to do this, this, and this." It's not the same thing. It's a different animal. And Elon Musk clearly doesn't agree with me on that. But having spent,
he hasn't asked you for your 2 cents, Chris.
No, he hasn't emailed me asking me what I do for a living. Yeah.
Hey, quickly before I let you go, I'm running out of time. But the big, beautiful bill that we're scheduled to get a vote on today, $340 billion, includes money for mass deportations, border security. You think we're actually going to see a vote today? And is this too big to pass?
They won't hold a vote if they don't think they can win. So if you see a vote being postponed, it means they don't have the votes. But as Tom mentioned, it's a 1-vote margin. You can lose 1 Republican.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.